And day one of Hot Stove coincides with day one of the GM meetings, and our guy is there. Good morning to JP Morosi. Happy day one. How's it going out there? Is it beautiful? What do you know?
Lauren, what I can tell you right now is, as you can see behind me, the stove is plainly hot already. There is a hot stove behind me here in Arizona. It's a big day on the overall offseason scene, the deadline for options to be picked up or rejected. And actually, Lauren, we had some news over the weekend as well when it came to options being declined or accepted. Let's begin with those players who opted out over the weekend. Cody Bellinger is now a free agent. Watch him. He's going to sign, I believe, one of the largest contracts for any free agent position player this winter. Eduardo Rodriguez, there was a little conversation there with the Tigers. Ultimately, he chooses to opt out. Marcus Stroman opts out from the Cubs. Joey Votto, his option was declined by the Reds. His future uncertain, does hope to potentially still continue his career. Lance Lynn, his option declined by the Dodgers. Also, Whit Merrifield, a free agent. Justin Turner, as Matt mentioned earlier on, he is now a free agent as well. But Kyle Hendricks is not a free agent. He is back now with the Cubs. I believe, Lauren, that once the Cubs lost Stroman, that bringing back Kyle Hendricks, who, of course, 7 years ago pitched so many massive games to the Cubs as they won the World Series, bringing back the professor was a good call.
Guys, can I jump in on one of these guys, JP? I want your thoughts on Eduardo Rodriguez opting out in Detroit, because to me, looking at this with no skin in the game and having a lot of respect for the player and for the organization, boy, the organization kind of got, they took it in the rear on this one. Eduardo Rodriguez signed a huge deal to be a front of the rotation guy, missed almost a full year because of personal issues. The team welcomed him back, no discipline, come on back. Everything's cool. He says no at the deadline to a deal that would have sent him to the Dodgers, that would have made the Tigers a little leaner and better in the long run, and then he opts out. The Tigers got worked on this deal. Am I wrong?
Matt, that's a very good assessment of what exactly transpired there at the trade deadline. The Tigers thought they had a deal in place for Rodriguez to go to the Dodgers. In the end, he said no, and at the time, he said, it's because I want to stay in Detroit. Clearly, he's not in Detroit any longer, at least at this point in time. Now, in the end, Matt, is there a small chance that maybe he shops around and checks into the marketplace and decides to come back to the Tigers after everything else? I suppose that's possible. We do know that he has a preference to potentially be closer to his home in South Florida, maybe a spot for the Marlins to make a move with Rodriguez this offseason. But, Matt, you're exactly right. There, at some point in time right now, should be a prospect or two, an impact prospect in the Tigers system who is not there because he rejected the trade.
Just wanted to throw that in. I think it's unfortunate on both sides. It didn't, when players get these completely lopsided, player-friendly contractual arrangements, opt-outs, no trades, don't be surprised when it bites you in the rear end, which it did in this case. Okay, sorry, that's all I had.
And Maddie, JP mentioned the Marlins. It's not just the players, JP. Front office moves happening already. The Marlins, like what the Rays were doing, grabbed their general manager, Peter Bendix, to run their baseball operations. What was behind it, JP?
Lauren, I think it's exactly that. The respect that the industry has for the way that the Rays continue to find ways to win year after year. And that news became official just this morning, a short time ago. Peter Bendix is the new president of baseball operations for the Miami Marlins. The announcement made this morning by Bruce Sherman, their owner, citing Peter's long tenure with the Rays, more than a decade of strong performances year after year. Certainly the Rays have had high-level execs depart before, whether it's Chaim Bloom, of certainly Andrew Friedman way back in the beginning of things. James Click won a World Series with the Astros. It is quite an executive tree. The Marlins, their in-state rivals, bring on Peter Bendix, and now, of course, the Rays, as they typically do, Lauren, one would assume, will promote from within another superstar in the industry, and we'll be talking about him or her years from now, potentially being a leader somewhere else.
Yeah, an opportunity for someone else. Joined the Rays as an intern in 2009. Don't you love those stories, JP? Just working their way up. Some of the questions answered. The rest have to wait. And the Dodgers, JP, have plenty with their rotation. We learned about Clayton Kershaw. He posted it to his Instagram account that he had surgery on that left shoulder. What does that mean? When will we see him back on the mound?
Well, Lauren, it's a great question, and right now the understanding is that Clayton Kershaw wants to pitch in 2024. So honestly, as we talk about all the news of this morning, one of the biggest stories is that Clayton Kershaw is not going to retire, that he's coming back, he hopes, for another season, and it's likely not to be on opening day. Of course, the Dodgers could sign him whenever they'd like and bring him in and have him be part of spring training as he finishes off his rehab from shoulder surgery. I think we all saw this year, Lauren, that there were moments of brilliance from Clayton. There really were. There were nights where it was vintage Kershaw. They just weren't quite as numerous because of all the work he had to do to get the shoulder ready to go when he was on the mound. So I think overall the numbers, you see it there, excellent. That's and what he's done through the course of his career. Obviously, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame first ballot without a doubt. And this past season was quite consistent. What I wonder, though, Lauren, and one that a story we'll be talking about for a long time on this show, is what the Dodgers do with the rest of their rotation. They got to October this year and simply ran out of starting pitching depth. That can't happen again for Andrew Friedman, Brandon Gomes, and the Dodgers in 2024.
I mean, when you think about it, Kershaw was the constant in their rotation when they needed him the most this year. JP, Yoshinobu Yamamoto just threw a complete game in what was his last start in Japan. I would imagine interest galore. What do you know?
Yoshinobu Yamamoto was announced just after Game 7. His Oryx Buffaloes actually lost the 7th game of the Japan series. They announced after the game, the Buffaloes did, that he will officially be posted. This is massive news. There are people in the industry, Lauren, who believe that Yamamoto is the most talented pitcher who will be a pitcher in the major leagues in 2024. Of course, Otani not able to pitch next season. But Yamamoto, a star for Team Japan, for Samurai Japan during the World Baseball Classic, a really mature pitch mix. Lauren, he is the 3-time defending winner of the Sawamura Award, which is like the Cy Young Award for Nippon Professional Baseball. The last pitcher to win 3 straight awards was back in the 1950s. That covers a lot of great pitching. So Daisuke didn't do it, Shohei didn't do it, Yu Darvish didn't do it, but Yoshinobu Yamamoto did. A superstar, of course, we know well. Brian Cashman was there on the day he threw that no-hitter earlier this year for the Buffaloes.
An expectation for days, JP. I asked you, 1, 2, 3, I asked you 5 questions before Shohei. Give me a little credit. How soon can we see him sign? What do you think?
What's his name again, Lauren? I need you to repeat that. I'm not familiar with him. I've never heard of the player you're talking about before. Okay. Oh, yes. So, Shohei Otani. I'll say this, Lauren. We don't expect him to sign this week. This is the first segment of many segments this year in which we'll talk about Shohei. I'm not even sure, Lauren, that we'll hear an address of sorts from his representation during these meetings. The word I keep hearing is that he wants to keep things pretty low-key as the offseason goes along. And honestly, Aaron Judge took a very similar approach to last offseason. Again, there was still plenty of discussion about it, but there weren't a whole lot of updates from his camp. And I think that we're going to hear a similar approach from Shohei Otani this offseason. I'll tell you this. I did speak with someone recently close to the situation and was just told again, his goals in no particular order: win immediately and sign with a team that understands how to medically and from an overall roster construction standpoint help him be both a pitcher and hitter for the long term. So can you win? Can you help Shohei do what Shohei wants to do? That is the 2-part question, Lauren, that's going to define our offseason conversations in so many ways for the months to come.
That's interesting. You didn't say geographical location, which is what we initially thought, right? A couple months ago, that would drive him to a team.
Right. I think, Lauren, in general, for him, yeah, there is certainly the financial component. I've been a believer, though, that with the record-setting deal, if that ends up being where it is, there are going to be enough teams that are in there at those record-setting hundreds of millions of dollar offers that he'll be able to take his pick. I really believe that. And of course, I think part of the big discussion will be, do you go short-term and opt out, one of the deals like what Maddie was describing, or do you take that longer-term deal with all the guaranteed money and then have that player option in the midst of it? So many different ways to structure it, but I do think, Lauren, at the end of the day, it's going to be a contract the likes of which we've never seen before.
I think Shohei, I think low-key. That's the goal. JP Morosi live from the GM meetings. Thanks so much.